The on-field drills start at the NFL Combine on Thursday. We'll tell you the best way to consume all the action in Indianapolis next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we're talking all things NFL Combine. There's stuff already happening in Indianapolis. We are having on-field drills on Thursday. Landon, for people that maybe this is their first or second time watching the Combine, following along, what's the best way to consume all of the information that we're going to get over the next 5 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to know is that it's a fire hose. Like, even when you're kind of sitting down to watch the events, it's one guy after another. It's happening very quickly. I definitely spent a lot of time rewinding and having to replay things, and just because it is a lot of information, and it's not just obviously the events or the testing or whatever you want to call them. It's also the kind of information that's being learned throughout the week, that's kind of being sprinkled in, into the coverage and in social media. And so it's, and then on top of that, it's also the interviews, right? Not only just with the teams, but them getting in the podium and answering questions. There's lots of information that's coming out, not only about the draft prospects, but about other players in the league, trades, get developed, free agent deals get quietly talked about here at
Kickers wanting $10 million a year. There's a lot going on.
Boy, there sure is. So yeah, there's a lot. I think it's okay to accept that it's a lot. Understand that the numbers will always be there. Like, there's always time to go back later and really dig into the numbers. So yes. I wouldn't in the moment try to focus too much on making sure you have all the numbers. They'll all be up on NFL.com later. I think if anything, it's about watching the players compete and perform. I think the field drills are more useful than people give them credit for, because you get an opportunity to watch these athletes move a lot. It's a lot like my theory on the first few days of training camp, right? It's important to understand how these guys move and what they look like on the move. So there's lots of different ways to consume it. Just make sure that you kind of are taking it at your own pace and you're drinking water.
Yeah, I mean, the best example of this is actually something that happened to us last year. I remember this conversation exactly. You and I were talking about the offensive line drills. And again, this is where I messed up a little bit. And I was looking at Tyler Booker's numbers from the measurables, and he came in at 6'5", 321. He ran a 1.96 10-yard split, which is the second percentile. And he had a 5.38 40-yard dash. And I remember telling you, I'm like, hey, this is just not a first-round guard. You can't take a guard that is this bad. And I remember you telling me, but the on-field drills were really good. And the way that he moved, through the bags and through the gauntlet stuff that they put him through. And he just looked way more comfortable doing that. And I think that's a good example of, don't pay too much attention to the numbers. Watch how these guys are moving on the field in the drills.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of things. It's not everything. It's not nothing. It's something. It's data point that you weigh into the kind of overall measurement. But yeah, I think people really, really do themselves. And I hope that I would hope that we were past that part of the conversation. But if we're, just in case we're not, yeah, the 40 times are not the end all be all. And I wouldn't hold them as such. I think there are certain positions where it is very highly weighted and that you need to pay attention to it. But I think there are other events for other positions that are more important, and none of it is a pass or fail. It's all on a scale of things. So I think it's important to take in all the information. But I think the thing that you're going to miss if you don't watch it maybe initially, and I guess you could, record it and watch it later, but I think it's really getting an opportunity to watch these guys move, and then add that into your evaluation as well.
And we're going to talk about some drills to really focus in on in just a little bit. But I do want to ask you about the trend of players opting out of the combine workouts. We heard CJ Allen is not doing anything, the linebacker from Georgia. Some mixed reports on whether Sonny Styles is going to run or not. But how do you feel about players opting out of some of these drills?
I don't want to get in the way of what I know is going to be a
No, I want
super.
an honest opinion because
No,
I'm to come across this old guy, get off your lawn, right?
I don't think you are, though. And look, I mean, that's easy for an even older guy to kind of comment on. But I think that I understand to some degree why it has happened in the past, right? I think last year was an egregious sign of kind of a violation of that, of people. It's not a violation, but just like, the guys that aren't willing to come out there and put their best show on in this very competitive situation. And I think if you're a top super high end guy, guaranteed lock top 5, who doesn't really have anything to gain here, I think you can make an argument that you shouldn't be out here.
Well, can I give you an example from last year?
Yeah,
Travis
please,
Hunter didn't
please.
do anything at the combine. And I totally get it. I mean, he's a number 2 overall pick. He was never going to be probably the number 1 pick. There was really just nothing to gain. But unless you're one of those players, and honestly, in this class, outside of Fernando Mendoza, there really isn't anybody that couldn't stand to go out there and work out. To me, it bothers me a little bit because I see a guy like CJ Allen, who's a really good player. I think he's a borderline first-round prospect.
Yeah.
And we hear someone like Arval Reese is going to go out there and do everything, right? He's gonna do every drill. He's going to do every combine workout. And CJ Allen is healthy, and he's saying no. And if I'm not saying that you shouldn't draft CJ Allen, but I would make a little mental note like, okay, what is he hiding? Or why didn't he want to compete? I know these Ohio State guys are going to be out there competing. Why doesn't he want to be out there next to them? Is he afraid that he's going to look really unathletic? Is he hiding a slow 40? It's just something that I would like to see if you are a talent evaluator.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think honestly, I think it's usually bad advice from the agents, right? Telling them, hey, like, this is going to hurt your stock. I think a lot of these guys probably want to do it. But the truth is like, I mean, if again, the CJ Allen situation, I mean, I think Shadur Sanders was a great example last year, right? Where Travis Hunter is out there, not working out, but we know why Travis Hunter is not out there working out. You aren't the same player as that. And you should be out there showing what you've got. I think CJ Allen is a first rounder. I think that's, but he's a late first rounder. And the fact is that these 2 other guys who are at the same position, basically, who are top 10 picks, probably are going to be out there working out. And so what does that say about you?
Like, I wouldn't want to open the door for anybody else because let's play the scenario. Let's say you're the Cowboys at pick 20 and Allen doesn't test, but Jacob Rodriguez goes out there and runs a really good time. And Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh looks awesome in the drills. Suddenly you might be thinking, okay, hey, we don't need to draft CJ Allen at 20. Let's just wait a little bit and we'll grab one of these linebackers a little bit later that we think, they're awesome athletes and they showed it in the combine drills. Let's just take one of those guys. You just don't want to leave any opportunity for somebody to come in there and steal your spot.
That Indiana measuring tape strikes again, and Lewis is just above 6 foot, and suddenly he's running a 4.49 40.
Exactly. Yes.
And now he's like, oh God, we got to take this guy in the first round. And CJ who? Yeah, I mean,
it happens. It happens every year. The other part of it is, let's use Tyler Booker as an example. I think there's always a fear that if you have a bad 40 or bad testing, it's going to kill your draft stock. Look at Tyler Booker. He had one of the worst RAS scores that we've seen in a long time. But because he looked so awesome in those drills, the positional drills, he ended up being the number 12 pick. And nobody cares about the athleticism anymore. I understand there are guys that are hurt or they're banged up. But if you don't have a reason or excuse like that, I would really be nervous about drafting them high.
The media may double count that stuff, but the NFL teams aren't double counting that.
No.
If you look average on tape, no one's going to be shocked when you come out here and run an average 40 time. Just do it. When you don't do it, it makes it look even worse.
Correct.
So yeah, I think it's just a bad strategy, honestly, especially for folks that have something to lose and gain by running.
All right, let's talk about some drills to watch throughout the weekend that we're going to be paying attention to, including the 40 time at the cornerback position. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft with over 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. I don't even need to think twice. It is the cherry. It's so good. It's got this bold, it's like a cherry candy style flavor. It's sweet with a little bit of a tart edge to it at the end, but I love the finish of it. It's just got a nice, clean, slightly tangy finish. I wish I could do a better job of describing it to you guys because it's absolutely phenomenal. 5 Hour Energy shots give you the boost that you need with zero sugar and zero crash. And 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned, so check those out as well. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. The offseason doesn't stop here for the Everydayer Club. Join the group chat to talk Cowboys year-round and get every episode of the show ad-free. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Landon, for you, what are the most important drills to watch this week?
Well, I think especially considering what we're looking at, right? The positions that we're looking at, and I know I just said otherwise, but I think for like you mentioned, cornerback and 40 times are going to be a big thing for us, right? Because we're in the market for defensive backs. Cornerbacks are as closely associated to the 40 time and the success as you're going to get. Really, there's obviously other positions where being faster are good indicators, but there are very few in which the event is as closely tied to NFL success as cornerbacks and 40 times. So that's definitely going to be one of the first places we start at. And should we talk about some particulars at some of those spots?
Absolutely. We should. Yeah.
So I think for specifically like what's going on, like who we're looking as, we're going to look and see what's Mansoor Delane's like 40 time. What are we looking at athleticism wise? How is he measuring in? I mean, we'll talk about the kind of overall measurement process, which I think that's its own category. Maybe we'll talk about that next. I think guys like Terrell and is Jermod McCoy running? Like, is he healthy enough? What's going on with that whole situation?
If he doesn't. I mean, he tore his ACL, was it in August of 2025, I believe?
Is that right?
Or is it even further back than that?
I think it was even further back than that. I could be
I'll
wrong,
double check. But to me, if you got a guy that missed the entire season and still isn't running at the NFL Combine, I'm officially worried.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it was he tore his ACL during an offseason workout in January of 2025.
Oh,
so
if he's not running in Indianapolis, we've got a big problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean, I think when we talked about this originally, there was expectation that he was supposed to play this season for Tennessee. That didn't happen. We get to the Senior Bowl, he's not there either. Like if he's not running or doing events or if we don't get a extremely positive update, I mean, McCoy's falling all the way off my board, probably.
Yeah, I need him to run. And for Delane, I think for him, any time in the 4.4s is good. I think where we start getting nervous is if it's in the 4.5s, because now you're talking about a short, small arm cornerback that's running in the 4.5s. That might be too many boxes left unchecked for the Cowboys, at least at pick 12.
Yeah, and then I think the next category I wanted to really kind of talk about is really measurements, right? I think more than it feels like more so this year than maybe other years, we need to get just measurements on guys like Delane, but also I think you look at specifically the edge rusher, the pass rusher class, like we need measurements obviously on Reuben Bain and Cassius Howell and not Kendrick Falk, because I think he's going to be fine, but like R. Mason Thomas, like what are you weighing in at? Like what are we getting from the arm length of Reuben Bain? What are we getting from the arm length of the weight from Cassius Howell and guys like that. So I think there's a lot of these kind of tweener guys we just need to get eyes on a little bit. I think there's probably some linebackers that fall into that category as well. Like how tall is Rodriguez, and how Kyle Lewis we just talked about, right? Who's probably not 6 feet. So that the A&M linebacker that's similar undersized guy. So
measurements
like
are going to be big. Yeah. And for me, I'm also looking at, the 10-yard splits. And again, this is all stuff that you can find out after the combine. It's important to watch it just to see how these guys move. But you're looking at the profile. Like there might be a linebacker that runs a 4.82. But if he crushes the vertical jump and the broad jump in the three, okay, it's not that big of a deal. That's why this whole profile is important. And the other part of it is have some expectations when it goes into these 40s, because a wide receiver that's 170 pounds running a 4.42 isn't as impressive as a 215-pound guy running a 4.7, right? So the weight adjusted matters too. That's just why it's a lot of information at one time, and it's why I highly recommend that you go over to Math Bomb on Twitter. I think it's Kentley Platt, who does a great job of giving you a score, with factors in your weight, factors in your height. I think we're just looking for overall well-rounded athletes here.
Yeah, and again, don't over rely on one testing score if it doesn't jive with the other ones. Like if it doesn't make sense, then it may be an outlier, right? We talked about specific drills for positions. I think in the past we talked about the 20-yard shuttle for offensive line and how important that is. But I agree. Like for lower body explosion, you're looking at the broad jump, you're looking at vertical jump. And obviously those are important for pass rusher positions as well.
Can I give you another one?
Yeah, please.
They always do this drill for the defensive backs. It's usually at the end of their session where they put them in a back pedal and then they have them drive forward trying to catch a pass. Man, it doesn't take much to see which guys are natural athletes catching the ball, which ones are really fighting it. And it matters. You can have a guy that's really awesome that's covering, but if he's got brick hands, teams just aren't going to be afraid to throw the ball at him. Watch that drill because it'll really separate the guys that are good athletes from great athletes.
Yeah, all the field events I think are good. Like the gauntlet that they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's it may seem like, hey, they're never gonna be asked to do this, but it just really kind of reveals what kind of natural hands you have and the ability to quickly make adjustments. So yeah, I think again it's we come in here and we say to focus in on one thing, but that's not really what it is. It's more just sit back and absorb all of it and then try to kind of sort it through with your brain combined with some of the results and see, what you get. But I agree. I think the good thing to do is come in here with expectations based on what you've seen on tape from these guys and see if they meet those expectations, because that's ultimately what the NFL scouts are doing as well.
Caleb Downs, what's your expectation for a 40?
Sub 4.5 is what I'm hoping.
Okay. Anything sub 4.5, we're good.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Okay. Like, I mean, I think
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Again, just last thing, 10-yard splits are way more important than 40-yard dashes, frankly, for every single player. So
it's just not as much fun to follow.
That's true. That's very fair.
All right, let's tell you some players that we are rooting for at the NFL Combine that could drastically impact how the Cowboys draft. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is always a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy and reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. And that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy to follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. And for a limited time only, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box with free shipping and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box with free shipping and free dessert for life. You must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, and location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are discussing the NFL Combine, which starts on Thursday. Landon, who are some players that we're really rooting for to have big Combine performances over the weekend?
So I think this is an interesting question because rooting for is an interesting term when you're talking about the Combine, right? Because when you're looking at the Combine, you're looking at players you're trying to draft. So you kind of don't want to root for the guys you want to draft necessarily because you want them to kind of be available in your range, right?
I think it was like John Harbaugh a couple of years ago that was rooting for Kyle Hamilton to run a slow 40 so they could draft him.
Yeah, maybe I think that's more the route we should be hoping for. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit. Like, I do think for me, the guys that I'm rooting for are any offensive tackle.
Correct.
Any wide receiver, right? Any quarterback to look really, really good enough to move from below the 12th pick to above the 12th pick, right? That's what we need to have happen more than anything really in this Combine is, look, every one of the guys the Cowboys are looking at, they have their own thing. I mean, honestly, you could go down the list and say, like we said, Mansoor Delane, we got to see about the height, we got to see about the speed. Sonny Styles, we got to see if he even makes it to us. Every one of these guys, you could go through and they've got something that needs to get checked off in this Combine. But I think the thing that's actually gonna move the needle for the Cowboys is if somebody has an incredible Combine and jumps above the Cowboys at a position that you don't need and pushes down one of these players that the Cowboys do need.
I got three names that I wanted to give you. These are all guys that right now on the consensus board are being drafted after pick 12. The first one is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. I expect him to test really well, but if he has one of these insane workouts, maybe a team like Kansas City just takes him inside the top 10 because they think he could be their next Travis Kelce, right? That's the first one. The other two are defensive tackles. Caleb Banks from Florida, who said he's going to run the 40 and he's going to run fast at 6'6", 330 plus pounds. And the other one is Peter Woods, who his stock has been all over the place. And maybe he doesn't jump the Cowboys at 12, but maybe he goes between picks 12 and 20. And it's just another player that we don't think the Cowboys are going to draft that goes off the board.
And since you did two defensive tackles, I'll do two offensive tackles, right? What about Monroe Freeling from the University of Georgia? Perfect. Big, toolsy, athletic, in a class that's a little bit weak at the top. Sometimes these teams like to push up the toolsy guys that they feel like they can squint and make it work. Monroe Freeling, I think, is going to be a good tackle. It's just a matter of when, and I think it could be possibly a guy he sneaks in. What about Kayden Proctor? What if Kayden Proctor comes into this situation weighing 335 and is in incredible shape and suddenly
not eat since the end of the season? That'd be the only way.
What if he actually just worked out for once? I don't know. I mean, did lower body workout, not where he's lifting, ham hocks or whatever. I think, one of these guys that look, these teams are begging for blue chip players at the positions that we talk about that teams need to save money. They will do whatever they can. All you have to do is give them an excuse to put one of these offensive tackles, defensive tackles, pass rushers. I hesitated to put tight end on my list because honestly, the one you is the only one I would think that could possibly be in striking distance. But again, anybody that will occupy one of the first 12 picks in front of the Cowboys, first 11 picks in front of the Cowboys is good for me. So I just look at premium positions, but also guys that are vaulting themselves up with incredible workouts.
And I think Carnell Tate and Makai Lemon, the two top receivers in this class, we'll see if they work out at the combine. I think they both go inside the top 11, but it would be nice for both those guys to have awesome performances just to make that a lock, right? So now you're not have to worry about a scenario where two of the top 3 receivers are available at 12. Maybe that would entice a trade down situation, but it would just be really nice if those guys all went early. So the Cowboys could have maybe a Caleb Downs or a Reuben Bain or a Mansoor Delane or Sonny Styles fall to them at 12.
And last one I'll throw in there just because it's an outsider, but guys, we've seen crazier stuff. If Ty Simpson goes out there and throws the ball really well on the field, I mean, again, like I think there's people that they're trying. Have you heard the rumors of what some of these teams are trying to do to get starting quarterbacks?
Andy Dalton.
If they need to, teams will squint hard enough to make it work. Quarterback is the easiest position to squint to try to make it work. I think Ty Simpson, if you want to just have blinders on and pretend like the first few games of this season were the only games that existed this year, I think it's probably pretty easy to convince yourself, hey, I could take Ty Simpson at the 10th overall pick. So just look out for those positions at premium spots, and if they have big days at the combine, it could be a big day for the Cowboys on draft day.
That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we'll take a look at some of the biggest winners from Thursday at the NFL Combine, so tune in for that. And for those of you on video, we can send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel if you are an Everyday Club member. Just go to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com to join the club. And on audio, make your second listen to the Locked On NFL Draft podcast because we're in draft season, baby. This is the perfect time to listen to that show. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.